right, we will move on to the item 13, COS Board Review of Faculty Sabbatical Proposals. Mr. Carrizosa.
Okay, I just prepared for you on the cover memo a quick review of the process for how these proposals have been prepared and then ultimately reviewed. Just by way of just quick reminder, the Faculty Enrichment Committee, I think under the request of Academic Senate this year, took on the project to go back and update, review, revise the proposal for sabbatical leave, and did that under the leadership of Dr. Teller, had a group of people work on the application packet that you see provided for you as backup. In there, it includes a scoring rubric. And so at the end of the first phase of the process, when invitations are out to all faculty to consider proposing a sabbatical, those come in and they go first to the Faculty Enrichment Committee. The Faculty Enrichment Committee then convenes a sabbatical review committee, which includes, on our behalf, the Vice President of Academic Services, Dr. Lacerna, and they review the proposals according to the rubric that you see developed here by them, and they make recommendations as to which, if any, of these might be advanced to the board. You can see that initially this year there were 5 proposals. After the Sabbatical Review Committee vetted them, they chose to forward 3. So there's 3 proposals before the board this evening. We discussed this a little bit during the board retreat in January, just the board's role in this process. And you'll recall at our last meeting, the board appointed a 2-member committee. So this is new. This is different than what we've done in the past, or at least in the minutes that I could research and archive. It looked like the last sabbaticals were probably, according to board minutes, granted around the 08-09 year.
Oh, wow.
And in that process, it appeared to be a more president proposed or president recommended board approval kind of relationship. So what we're doing now, I guess, if you had to call it something, you might call it the board's role in sabbatical approvals 2.0, because there's a new involvement now with the 2-member board subcommittee. So Lori and John came in as the board's representatives, and as you can see here, spent some time reviewing, requesting additional information. I was at their disposal for whatever information they might need, as was Jennifer, and they agreed to the 2 board members kind of summarize their work, their findings, share that along with their recommendations here for the board as a whole. But all 3 proposals are available. The board has the opportunity to look at those and consider any action you might like to tonight on these. But with that, I would turn it over, Mr. President, to your 2 board representatives for them to share their report and their findings.
Thank you. Okay, who wants to go first? Mr. Zumwalt?
Thank you. To remind everybody that we chose this subcommittee method because to give the sabbaticals the time that's necessary to really truly evaluate it is, in my judgment at least, more time this board as a whole be willing to spend in an evening meeting like this. Lori and I spent many, many hours with this particular subject, and ours is merely a recommendation to you guys. You of course, can amend what we suggest or reject it altogether and substitute for something else. Anyway, Lori and I met on February 21st, and then we also had subsequent calls back and forth on the topic. And we discussed the criteria for evaluation and review the proposals. As Stan said, there were 3 proposals that came to us from the Faculty Enrichment Committee, and we understand originally there were 5, and the number reduced to 3 for our review. Lori and I, think a college must continually improve if students are to be served well. A sometimes overlooked source of ideas for improvement is from the faculty. A sabbatical can be a vehicle for new ideas and implementing college improvement. Our primary focus was what we believe are sound structural components to a proposal which we describe in the following criteria. First, the Faculty and Risk Committee established criteria and had prepared a format as a basis for the proposals. The most significant features in our judgment are: how strongly does it connect to district goals and strategic plan objectives? How strongly do the goals of the proposal directly impact the success and persistence of students? Is there an acknowledgement from the division chair or dean? Finally, we used some additional criteria in evaluating these. First of all, we try to decide, does the proposed work duplicate efforts already in place or previously done? Is the goal of a sabbatical to bring about measurable change in the division or even the institution? And if so, when and how? If so, is there a proposed method of measuring outcomes? And again, if so, how is the measured outcome coordinated with the college's existing research dean's office? Is support from the division dean and the division chair for the sabbatical proposal apparent? The first one that I want to talk about was a proposal by Christine Keene. She's from the math department. Just hitting the high points, the proposal actually is quite detailed, but her proposal was prepare for a major curriculum revision in the pre-transfer math sequence. She also stated that there was a need to address the overhaul of a COF math curriculum to improve utility of placement procedures and expedite progress through the pre-transfer math sequence, pre-transfer level math sequence. Lori and I observed that there is a very real need to improve outcomes in math for incoming students whose skill levels are below college level. She made a case for the need to implement change and to do so by interacting with K-12 and develop a plan and make appropriate changes. She proposed a method which is well thought out and seemed to us to be something very much needed to improve the success of students. In her proposal, she included letters of support from her division dean and chair, which were very convincing. That said, we saw some minor flaws or shortfalls in the proposal. Her proposal used the words prepare for and address the need. We think it should use stronger language like prepare a plan to implement. She did not include a timetable for evaluation or implementation. She did not show alignment with the college basic skills grant. Lori and I do recommend this sabbatical be approved if Ms. Keene accepts the following conditions. Project to be conducted in alignment with the basic skills grant and include an appropriate timetable for evaluation and implementation. Now, Lori and I do understand that some things are out of Ms. Keene's complete control, but goals are rarely achieved without specific announced intentions in a timetable. Also, she needs to include a proposed method of measuring outcomes. Now, with all sabbaticals traditionally, and we want to keep up the tradition, is when the sabbatical is complete, there are presentations made to the board, and we want to see that again. But in addition to that, we want to see another presentation a year later about the impact their sabbatical has had on the college. The next one that I want to talk about is one by Stacy Brand. She is in the English department.
John, before you move on, I'm just gonna add a comment we didn't include in our notes on this proposal. You did mention the basic skills, but I think John and I also took a look at each of these and made sure that we tried to ask the right questions in terms of duplication of efforts, so that we don't, we know there's grants, we know there's other work being done by the college, and we wanted to make sure that, since we're not aware of all that takes place in terms of in the trenches and in the departments, we hope we ask the right questions of Stan and our administrators of, is this work being done in any other area? And there is some work being done through the basic skills grant, and we just want to make sure it wasn't duplicated. So that was kind of a concern of ours, but it sounds like that is something that could be accomplished.
You're absolutely right. Stacy Brand, her proposal, summarized, is that she wants to create a supplemental guidebook that is affordable and specifically aligned with outcomes for English 251. Lori is, my observations, aware that she was convincing that there may be a need for the guidebook proposed. The guidebook might improve student outcomes, that the guidebook might fill a void in learning materials. You notice that I inserted the word might. The proposal lacked division support. I shouldn't say that. The division support was not evident in the proposal. An implementation plan was missing, and an evaluation component was also missing. We are recommending denial of this proposal for sabbatical. However, we see there may be a need as well as promise in this proposal. We encourage Ms. Brand to reapply at the next opportunity, taking into account our comments. And actually, the comments on all three of these things, there's a video camera over there running. And I would hope that the future applications would include these comments. The last one was Christian Anderson. He's in the social science division. His proposal is further professional development by completing a 10-course program in data science. It is a certificate program administered by, I'm going to butcher this, Coursera, in partnership with Johns Hopkins University. I'm unfamiliar with who Coursera is, and if I mispronounced it, somebody correct me. Our committee observations is the proposal does not make a strong case for directly impacting a district goal or a strategic plan objective. The program does not explain how college benefits beyond the applicant being a better prepared structure of a single class. Proposal does not explain division benefits. Proposal does not show any procedures for outcome measurement or impact on students. It does not explain how research office fits in, if at all, and division support is not evident. Lori and I recommend denial of this proposal. In our opinion, and in general, not just to this one, in our opinion, sabbaticals should propose changes in a division or the college to benefit students, or propose creating a product to improve outcomes on a broad basis. While not mandatory, a benefit in basic skills for a large segment of students should receive priority consideration. Sabbaticals aimed at improving a single instructor's ability should have much lower priority than one intended to bring about institutional change or help a large segment of students. It should include an evaluation based upon outcome measurement. It should include a timetable of implementation. Lori and I talked about another issue that's outside the college quite a bit. The people that elect us think sabbaticals are nuts. Lori and I disagree. We think they can be very, very valuable. Over the years, I've seen some sabbaticals come through here that were mind-boggling. They were wonderful. It is a vehicle for the faculty to bring about change to their division, bring about change to the college, to unite their divisions for change, all those kind of things. And it's worth funding when done right. It's not worth funding when the larger principles are not part of what we're trying to pursue. I'd be the first to admit that it'd been a little nice if the board had said something sooner. But on the other hand, I really like to see sabbaticals be an integral part of college improvement. And I think it's important to embrace these principles. And I know the people that deal with this will probably figure out how to expand on this and maybe even talk us out of something, I don't know, expand on this and approach it in something similar to this. What I leave out?
I think you covered most of it. I think our notes were pretty specific. I agree with everything John said. I do see value in them. I also feel it's really important that as a college, not just as a board or just as an administration or just as a division, I think it's beneficial that, you know, we look at the sabbatical a year later to see, not just reporting on it right thereafter, but looking at it truly a year later and being real honest about its effects and how it worked, and did we evaluate it properly, so that going forward as a board, if we're gonna be involved in the process, we are looking for the right measurements and the right descriptions and the right accountability in terms of how do we make sure that our dollars were spent, you know, in a good manner. And that's our role, is fiscally to make sure that we're spending the taxpayer dollars correctly, but also we need to consider student success and does it contribute to our goals and objectives? So that was a lot to take in. I'll be honest, it was a little overwhelming, but I think we took the time to look through each one, and I'm gonna be really looking forward to hearing the report, not just right after, but like I said, a year later, to see if it was able to produce the results that we expected.
And I guess I need to address this as a board, you guys have a contrary view on anything? Any questions?
John, just a couple of questions or comments. Is there a dollar, you know, I'm always looking at things in
Yeah, I
terms of
did
the
a-
budget. Is there a dollar,
Yeah.
a dollar amount that is associated with each?
I thought about this, and there's 18 ways to describe how much
Cowboy
it costs. And some people will, and you get different answers depending how you do it. The perspective I prefer is the loss in revenue. And doing some cowboy math is we have roughly 10,000 FTEs here. Roughly 70% of that is taught by full-time faculty, so that'd be 7,000. We have, I don't remember, 175 full-time faculty members. If you divide 175 into 7,000, you get something like 40. 40 FTEs per faculty member. Now, I understand that some faculty members will maybe have 80 and some may only have 20, but on average 40. We get about $5,000 a year per FTEs. That's a couple $100,000. One semester's half of that's $100,000. Now, we may backfill that position with a adjunct, but we could have hired the adjunct anyway, and we could have taught something else. So it's, as looking at a revenue loss, about $100,000.
But on the revenue loss side, aren't those students gonna be taught by somebody else, and therefore what you're really out is the additional salary that you're paying?
That's one perspective, but then we could have hired that somebody else and taught another class besides.
Yeah, assuming you have the students.
Well, we usually do.
Yeah. Okay, well,
And
you answer.
it's just one perspective. Now, if somebody, now, you need to ask, where's Christine? She could give you a different answer with what you're talking about. Do you have any input?
I don't know that we usually look at the revenue loss. It's a.
Well, no, I meant his perspective of you hired somebody, how much does that cost?
Oh,
Yeah, well, I took maybe a simpler approach and just said,
Yeah.
you're out the salary of the person that's not here,
yeah,
that you
you're
have to
out-
replace that person,
Right.
right?
And I am not gonna know the replacement cost.
Well, I'm not asking for a dollar, I'm just,
If you look at, if we were able to replace with adjunct faculty, it's about $4,500 for a 3-unit course so if they were gonna pick up you had 2 adjuncts picking up 5 classes, then so 6,500, or 4,500 times 5. But in some cases, you're gonna have to replace with a full-time
full-time
temporary.
temporary, yeah.
And a full-time temporary is gonna cost us around $55,000 for the semester.
Okay.
So it's, I guess the answer is 30 to 100, depending how you look at it.
Yeah. That's all I'm looking for. I particularly like the idea of coming back a year later, because that seems very logical.
You know, I remember there was a sabbatical some years ago, and I wish I could remember the guy's name. I'm embarrassed because he's still here. He was in the math department, and he had a concept of how to teach calculus not to do the integrations and such, but to actually then get an answer out of that. And he put together a deal, and I wish the hell I'd had that when I was in college. It was, and I remember another gal coming forward and talking about a better way to do the biology stuff. I also remember a athletic coach giving a report on ranking 58 restaurants in Atlanta.
I'll sign up.
And,
I know who that is.
But now you know
So-
where to eat in Atlanta.
So I think that, you know, if whoever doing the sabbatical wants to change this institution, I want to get behind that person.
All right, anybody else?
I thought you guys did an excellent job, and I think, Mr. President, you did a great job of picking these two to do it, so.
Your turn next year.
Okay.
We should name
Uh,
a permanent committee.
Yeah, permanent committee, Earl and I can decide.
All right, well, listen,
Good job.
I have a lot of confidence in the work that you did, and I know it took a lot of time, and it appears to me that you were very thorough, and that's the reason that I asked you, Mr. Zumwalt, and Board Member Cardoza, to serve on this committee. This is all new to me because we haven't had a sabbatical since I've had the opportunity to be on the board. So I'm thankful for the work you did and the thoroughness in which you did it. So I would accept a motion for a recommendation.
I move that we approve the subcommittee's report, and I guess that'll do it.
And their recommendation,
And
which
also, let me
is,
just say that I've been on the board 12 years, and I don't believe we've had a sabbatical in that period of time either, so.
yeah,
The recommendation was to approve the proposal by
Christine King.
Christine King, correct?
Right.
I'll second it.
All right, we do have a motion and a second for the,
With our recommended conditions.
right.
with the conditions.
They're in your recommendation.
All right, so we have a motion and a second for the acceptance of the committee's recommendation for the acceptance of the King proposal with the stipulations. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Ken,
Motion carried.
if I may, if Ms. Keene wishes to go forward, she's gonna, no doubt, need to talk to you or somebody about, well, how do I respond to this? And I would assume that we would authorize Jennifer to work with Ms. Keene to, you know, clean up what we said a little bit, if there's a more sensible way to respond to us. I don't wanna
Complicated.
be like, you know, IRS about doing it this way.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
This is concepts, the details, I think, should be left up
Yeah.
to somebody besides us.
That would be acceptable, and
Yeah.
I would encourage that.
I'm happy to do it, and she's sitting right next to me, so I already whispered to her that I'll work with her right after this, and we'll answer any questions she has and get those. If we have any questions, we'll get them back to you and move ahead from there.
Between Jennifer and Chris and myself, we'll, I think, interpret what you have requested, and I'll bring back assurance to the board if Chris accepts that those additional conditions are being met.